Good morning. We'll start the Administrative Practices Committee meeting for February 4th, 2020 at 9 o'clock in the morning in Grass Valley. And with a limited number of people, we might as well go around and introduce ourselves so that we all know who's here. I'm Greg Jones, the Assistant General Manager.
Rem Scherzinger, NID.
Ricky Heck, Director.
Chris Beerwagen, Director, Division 2.
Chris Stepanian, Board Secretary.
Chip Close, NID Operations.
Karen Hulk, community member.
Tommy Riley, Public Information Officer.
Sid Brown.
Sid, haven't seen you in ages. Good morning.
Monica Reyes, Recreation Manager.
Janet Golgowski, Human Resources Manager.
Excellent. Thank you.
I was just thinking about you the other day.
We will open up with public comment on items not on the agenda today. Seeing none, close public comment, and we'll open item number 1 for approval of the minutes from December 9th meeting. 2019.
So I went over these, I did not have any changes.
I do you.
Okay, so I would move approval or
Great.
approve.
Okay, so moved. Item number 2, January 7th, 2020.
Same then. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. So we'll move item number 3. Mr. Scherzinger.
Go easy on me. My finance manager is doing jury duty this morning. I think he's cheating. Good morning, APC, members of the board, public, staff. The item before you is the updates to District Policy 3080, the procurement policy. By way of introduction, this policy came out of the engineering committee in early 2019. It processed through our legal team through the summer and then ended up in the APC committee where it belonged and was considered on the 9th of both months and then headed to the board. The board then, I don't know what you want to call it.
I'll speak for the board.
Yeah, the board had difficulty with the policy and sent it back to APC to work on. We're really not sure to work on what.
Yeah.
We do have Director Peters' recommended edits. We did not incorporate those edits only because we haven't had legal look through them to make sure that they're consistent with our governing law. Other than that, we anticipate as soon as they're cleared from the attorneys, I'll bring those in and make the edits to the policy, if that's all right with the committee, and then bring that forward. The other part of it was clearly some questions about some timing issues and expense issues, which we can address here, but also authority levels was clearly an item of consternation. So where you guys would like to go, staff's here to facilitate.
Okay, well, I'll go first because I'm just one of those that, first off, with the additional edits caught us off guard, so those certainly one of the triggers to, do we put them in? Also, the question about the cost and the cost and the I'm not speaking very well. What was I guess so it's just the overall need for the changing of the limits. Okay, the dollar limits. Where are those coming from? The basis for those. Where are they coming from? We're kind of caught off guard about. And I was thinking about this on the way here. Is there a in government? It seems like a lot of things are arbitrary, and that one seems to me to be an arbitrary. Is there some other undergirding basis for doing that or not, and the need for doing that? And that was my question. I think was part of the question that came up. So having not been at the engineering, don't know where it came from. Having not been part of that discussion, it's like, okay, what is the basis for the need to change the policy for that? If there's scientific or so that's a basic question. Not that it's right or wrong. It's like it's the main one goes.
Well, I have, I
Go
can
ahead.
address that because I
Yes, go
was
ahead.
on all of those. So.
I would hope so.
So in the, so this policy came, you know, as Rem said, to the ABC committee twice. And then there was a third meeting with Rem, or, you know, general manager and Director Miller and I, that was, we just were kind of getting together, kind of hammering things out. So there were 3 meetings about this policy, and our focus had to do primarily with, I know Director Peters had issues around the procurement stuff, and I only have one little edit to that, but the
You mean
biggest,
the text, I'm sorry, you mean the verbiage?
Yeah, the verbiage.
Not the dollar amount.
that's right.
Okay.
So, and the issue that Director Miller and I spoke about, and with Rem, was that that the GM spending limits have gone, as Scott said, well, they've been up and they've been down, they've been up and they've been down, they kind of float around, you know, depending on how, you know, where the budget is and how flush we are and all of those kinds of things. And so I was really an advocate for bringing those limits down, and my reasoning was because there was, I really wanted the board to have, be more closely tied to how much money is going out the door. And with the limits higher, we as the board don't, you know, weren't necessarily terribly informed about that. And so then I went through and, let's see, oh, this is the cost stuff. So I went through and looked at, you know, staff produced this list of costs, right? And said, well, this is going to take an extra 41 meetings or 41 actions or whatever. And I went through and looked at all of that. Well, that all adds up to almost $4 million. And so my concern about that is that's a lot of money. As board members, our chief responsibility is fiscal oversight of the public's money. And this isn't about trying to solve a problem. There's no problem that I've ever seen. I mean, it's not
Right.
personal, or there's not a problem, or no, I don't, there's none of that at play. As it is, mostly, I want our board to be more informed about how much money we're spending and where. And from my perspective, in the last couple of years being involved here, there's an awful lot of money that goes out the door that folks don't, they're not really fully tuned into. So I felt that lowering those limits from the GM, with the exception obviously of emergencies,
Right.
Would force us as a board to be more informed about how much money is going out and where it's going and how we're spending.
Okay.
So for me, you know, without a change in this policy, this would have been $3.9 million that we would have spent without seeing it. Oh, that's a lot of money.
Oh, wait. Without seeing it though, aren't they budget items?
Mhm.
Aren't they?
Well, sure, they're budgeted items.
So we already see them. I mean,
Sometimes we do, but not always.
Well, we'll see them, okay.
So like, if there's, for instance, if there is a consultant contract, and we have this category called legal consultants and temporary, and there's this big giant budget number in there for those 3 things, then, you know, any of these things could fall in any of those categories, and we are not allowed to take, you know, to really look at it, go, I wonder if this is really necessary. You know, there's just not a dialogue. And given that we are the fiduciaries of the public money, it felt like to me that we really needed to up the game a little bit. So I did that, and then I went and looked at comparisons. I've got a sheet for everybody here. I looked at what El Dorado, PCWA, Georgetown, and YWA's GM spending limits are. These are obviously all these guys right around us. And
Right, okay.
here. And, you know, it's 50,000, 30, 45, and 25, and then 29 Palms is just kind of an outlier. They responded to an inquiry I made. So what I...
And which level do these compare to? Not the.
Well, this is the...
Right?
This is
Because these are
the-
low numbers relative to number 2.
So where we're talking about is the GM spending authority, which is, where is that on this policy? On I'm losing it now, you guys.
Red line.
I know, it's the red line, and it says, general manager's spending authority shall not exceed
Yeah, so
$50,000.
3080.7,
Dashboard.
Dash what?
not dash anything, so it's just 3080.7.
3080.
Oh, this one over
7.
here, okay.
General manager shall have purchasing authority not to exceed 50,000.
There it is. And so what I know is from the work that I did, which I did this spreadsheet, and I even brought the policies in case anybody has an issue with it, that this is what appears to be usual and customary policy in the watershed that is around us, right? And in some cases, I was very surprised to learn that PCWA is 30,000.
It's actually zero.
Huh?
It's actually zero.
It's actually zero. Well, I got a note from Michael Willengans, Director of Administrative Services,
Yeah.
that says anything over 30 requires board approval.
So interestingly enough, inside the policy of PCWA, they identify the board, the general manager, and department heads, and it only gives department heads authority to 30,000. All other expenditures have to go to the full board.
Uh-huh.
And
So-
they may be interpreting, Ricky, that the GM is a department head, but technically in the document, earlier in that document, it identifies both of them separately. I think the thing is interesting. We have a very similar document. I'll share with you
Oh,
guys.
look at this.
So.
This is kind of the industry standard for our area is about 100K. So this has, what we chose is, what we were looking for was like organizations, so Modesto, Merced, and South Feather. You can see they have no spending limit for the general manager. As long as it's a budgeted item, the general manager can spend up to that budgeted item. Beyond that, Sonoma County has $100,000 for construction, $25,000 for service contracts. The County of Nevada County, interestingly enough, the CEO can issue a contract for $50,000, but then can amend that contract in aggregate all the way up to $250,000.
Well, and their budget is about 4 times what ours is.
It's 2 times what ours
It
is.
is 2 times? I thought it was
257,000, so we put it right there. I was thinking about making a
257 million.
Yeah.
Yes.
To make it a percentage of El Dorado Irrigation District. Here again is one of those strange ones where it's 50,000 and with a $100,000 change order on the backside. So technically the GM can issue a contract for 150K.
Well,
So
except
that's-
that you can do an initial contract for 50K,
Right.
and then the change order has a different procedure. So you cannot contract solely for 150K,
No,
right?
but given,
Now we're talking tech.
No, I know,
you can
but,
issue a contract for 50,000 and then immediately issue task order. But I'm not saying that that's what they do, and please understand, I'm not advocating for or against. I'm just showing you.
oh, I think you are.
I'm not. I am absolutely not. The issue here isn't whether or not it's 50,000. I want you to be informed, right? And as I said to you, I don't care, right? But there are things that the board is saying to us, meaning we want you to be timely, we want you to think about customers, we want to cut overhead. This change causes those things to happen. So are there ways to deliver your request? How does the board know what contracts are being issued, and how do we control that? Those are kind of 2 different things for me, because there's a way inside this, Ricky, to say, we want, as part of our quarterly report, we want the staff to identify all contracts that were issued during that quarter and give us the amount. Done.
Well,
We can do
except that here's the problem.
Yeah.
Is what I want us to do is to be able to look at the money before it goes out the door. It's just like the conversation we had about controlling attorney's fees. Well, you get to see the invoices. Well, that's not controlling. All that does is say, yeah, this is what we committed to.
Right.
What I want us to be able to do is say, okay, we have, this many contracts for over the next whatever month period, and altogether, cumulatively, this is what they will cost.
Sure.
And so that before the contracts are issued, this board should have some control over that. And to just see that the contracts have been issued after the fact does not do that, does not provide any kind of oversight or control for the board, whose main function is to oversee the finances.
I agree, but that's a very different statement than what we talked about just a few minutes ago, right? It isn't about seeing what's happening, that's about controlling what's happening. And if that's what.
Both are true. Both are true. We have to see and we have to have some input. into what's
Right, no,
happening.
I'm just saying.
I disagree, and I have since coming on the board about being involved in the budget in a bigger way, rather than saying we don't get to see. We are not, we need to be more engaged, more informed about the budget choices.
Mhm.
And then this becomes a philosophical, how much do we micromanage or control versus allowing the general manager saying, here, giving him authority to do that and saying, as long as they're in the budget and he, there can always be, there's always going to be some choice differences of contracting, for instance, or for different, lots of reasons, and this stuff is complicated.
Mhm.
And I don't, philosophically don't see a need to change this if we are doing our job at the front end. And as far as, and I don't disagree also that it's been frustrating for me to be informed on everything that's happening all the time. But as far as we're not controlling or being fiscally responsible, that if we're doing, I'll go back, if we're doing the budget, if we have a more robust involvement in the budget process, which we didn't get there last summer, I don't feel, as the board, while we got through the process fairly well, I don't think that this is, that, to me, this is not that big an issue to change these numbers or to change the policy to do that.
Mhm.
I know.
Well, that's fine. I mean.
I went through this as the fire chief on the fire department. The board wouldn't give me $100 petty cash fund, right? They
Okay.
controlled every penny. Now, this is
Uh-huh.
Depression era people, but
Right.
that was frustrating to me as the manager to
Mhm.
not be having some latitude, because unless we feel that there's outright challenges or problems I don't feel that we, and I think we will all disagree philosophically about what level we feel we need to be overseeing. So that's why this came back to here. That it came out, that it was not a recommendation of the board, right? It was.
Oh, no, we recommended twice at APC.
These numbers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
I
we
was
did.
confused about that, because I heard going into the meeting that was not agreement, so.
Oh, no, there was agreement.
Okay, so there's
Director
a
Miller and I.
problem right there.
Director Miller and I and Rem all
Mhm.
sat and agreed, and we had
Okay.
2 meetings in public
Yep.
and 1 in the
Okay.
general manager's office.
That's great.
And I have to say, Rem, quite
Yeah.
honestly, I'm a little disappointed, but really grumpy
Mhm.
over the fact that we had 3 meetings
Yep.
about this.
Yes.
And never once in either of those 3 meetings did anybody bring up, oh my God, this is going to cost $78,000 more in staff time, and it's going to take 60 extra meetings, and blah, 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 blah. It's like, wait a minute, that only just showed up at the full board. That was never a part of the discussion, and for me, that felt like, it didn't feel right. It just didn't feel right. I don't want to go for, I'll just say that.
Fair enough. My
And-
recollection, I apologize.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
no,
Continue.
and so then I also went through these numbers that you gave out here. Where's my, no, that's something different. Oh, here we go. Sorry about this, but, oh, it's in here. The numbers on those budget numbers were like nearly impossible to go through. And it's the assumptions of, oh yeah, it's gonna take 5 management employees a half an hour to sit at a meeting at a cost of whatever it was. I mean, you had those costs so blown out of proportion in my view, and the
Uh-huh.
numbers didn't add up, and I sat with it last night.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this looks like baloney to me.
Mm.
A, and B, those staff are already in place. It's not like this is extra, this is already what they're paid to do, is to do our work. And
That's
so-
fair.
Yeah, so the $78,000, we could hire 2 clerks for that. So $78,000, I worked it out, was 6 weeks of I think it was 230 hours or something total, using all your numbers, which is like 6 weeks of full-time work for somebody,
Right.
right? And at the hourly rate that, it's like, wait a minute, what are we doing here? I mean, you're clearly trying to construct an argument to not do this, and you're trying to use these numbers, and it feels very manipulative to me. That's what I want to say. And I'm really disappointed in it, and I'm grumpy about it. And the full board, I think, will just have to decide how they want to go forward.
And that's what I propose.
Yeah.
I do.
Our issue was, Ricky, and this wasn't an attempt for me to submarine the item, it was an attempt to identify the issue that was facing us, right? And to put the district in, or have the board make a consideration, right? You've said in the past, democracy is expensive.
That's correct.
And if the board wants to execute this change, I wanted to make sure that you understood that it was going to cost us more in time and effort, right? Yes, these employees are being paid, but they're being paid to do their work. When they're sitting in the boardroom, it's about a half an hour per item in general, and that's where it's going to slow us down. So I don't think that those numbers are unreasonable. In fact, I would say that they're conservative to the low side, given the fact that currently the board takes an extra amount of time to review certain contracts. And that's fine, because you're on the learning curve. But I want to go back a little bit to the APC part, because in our conversation, and I stand by our conversation, and that was, I don't mind 50 and 100,000. Those don't bother me. But I want you to know what that causes to our speed and our tempo. We didn't agree to the 50 and 100 until the very last portion of the very last APC item. So there wasn't a place for me to make these recommendations or go through this thought process. We were also not in the same place where we are with the strategic plan, which speaks specifically to this issue. So we were trying to capture that as we were moving forward. But I would still stand at this podium and still stay at this podium and say, if the board wants to have a $50,000 limit, it's fine. Staff's ready to march on those orders if you want 100,000. It's, as we've shown in this little table, it's not necessarily the industry practice, but if the issue is we want to see what's going on, you see it in every monthly warrant, but you also see it in the quarterlies, and I'm happy to put together any type of report that you would like to show you what it is. If you want control over those contracts as we're moving through it, that is probably the best argument for the 50 and 100K, clearly, right? The other control is the budget, right?
Well,
and I perform within the budget, right? That's the general manager's job.
Correct. And I just feel that as the board, we've got a $100 million budget, and we're and it takes a lot of money to run this organization.
Sure.
And there are perhaps sometimes some proposed contracts that we would go, where does this fall in the overall priority? Well, okay, let's wait on this. That we should have the opportunity, and when I say control, it's not like control, it's like, let's look at this and deliberate about whether this is okay. And something we want to prioritize. But getting back to your numbers, you've got 5 department heads sitting in an APC meeting,
Yes.
and 10 department heads sitting in a board meeting for these items. It's like, wait a minute, we'd have one item. We do not need 5 department heads and 10 department heads to sit there.
I currently have 5 in the room
I
right now.
understand. And so then, going back to just a different subject altogether, I question, why do we need them all here? Why don't they just do their work and just kind of come in when their item comes? I mean, that's sort of...
We can
Right.
do that, right?
Well, I mean,
Past practice,
because
the request from the board in the past, Ricky, was to have the department heads in the room.
No, I get it, but I mean, if all of a sudden it goes both ways, it's like, we have to have all the department heads here. Oh, and so it's going to cost all this extra money to have them here. Well, then the answer is, we don't need all, if we're having an APC item about
Sure.
whatever, some engineering contract, well, we don't need Monica here, we don't need HR here, we don't need, right? It's like, so that's why I felt like this financial impact document was a bit disingenuous, because it's sort of like, it was like, okay, let's get everything possible that we can put in here so that it's this huge number so that it will convince the board that we don't need to do this. It feels really manipulative, actually.
I can tell you it's not. It was not intended to be that way.
Yeah.
Because if I was trying to manipulate this, Ricky, the numbers would be way higher.
Yeah,
Right.
well, I'd call you out on that too, so.
That's fair.
Okay, I propose you make the case at the board level, because this is.
Yeah, I agree,
why
I
I came
agree.
back
It needs to
here
go to the board.
Hearing that, there are two sides, two ways to look at things, and,
Oh, there's more than two.
Yeah.
well, I mean, okay, the $77,000 doesn't scare me, and it doesn't cost us extra, it means they shift that to not doing something else to do this.
Yes.
I get that part, when we see those numbers.
Right.
And I think they're helpful. We can argue all day whether they're, how valid they are, how important they are. But I think that, the idea of looking at being involved in the budgets and the idea of having a quarterly report on what's going on would eliminate this need. And so therefore I propose we take to the board and make a case there.
I think that's fine, because we're not gonna, we're just gonna sort of see this
Yes,
differently.
we are.
But just one little tiny thing on 3080, let's see, I don't know what page it is. It's where you've got, A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, then you go
Yeah.
R. One of the things that struck me here, this is at the top of this page, it's not numbered.
I don't have R.
You don't have R.
Here, I got R, quote for a quote or bid.
A quote or bid, yeah. And so this is sort of a definition. It says
Yeah.
verbal solicitation
Mhm.
or verbal. And I would, as a $100 million organization, strike verbal. Why would we ever do business based on verbal anything? It would everything here has to be in writing.
Okay.
Do you agree?
Actually,
Yeah.
I still haven't found the page.
Oh, okay.
you're on page 3.
Which, the red letter?
You're on page 3.
Yeah, you're on the red line version. Let me help you out.
Page 3.
Yeah, 3080-3. R,
I don't think that's on.
Mine's on 4
sorry.
Dash 4.
Got too many copies.
at the top.
There it is.
Quote or bid, yeah.
Verbal.
Verbal, and I'm like, well, why would we ever do anything verbal? That's really odd. So I would definitely strike verbal solicit. I mean,
This is on
Okay.
quote or bid though, right? This is not the.
right,
this is not-
no, it's
Yeah.
a quote or bids, but why would we go, hey buddy, send me a bid, it's like, well, no, you have to have a scope of work, I mean, you have, it's just verbal just is not correct. It's just.
Or documented verbal, so documented
Yeah, but that.
implies that you wrote it down, right?
That you wrote it down, but there isn't a hardening of that
Yeah, no,
agreement
that-
or of the bid.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
That's a more parochial
Yes.
practice
It's a
of
more, what
ours
do
in
you
the
call it?
past.
Your word tribal.
Tribal.
It's a tribal practice.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get away from tribal practices.
We are.
Well, but not, no,
Yeah.
there's still a room for it. There still should be room for
Well, you can still talk about it.
talk, interaction,
Yeah.
personal interaction.
Well, yeah, we're
But in
not
the end-
saying,
And trust? Yeah, what about the word trust?
we're not saying you can't talk. We're
Okay.
just saying that if you're gonna get a quote or bid, it needs,
So you'll have a letter, an email, or a documented
That's right.
solicitation.
That's right. It's just a letter and email. I mean, that's it. It just seems to have verbal in there, sort of like, I don't know, didn't
Okay.
seem.
But to bring us back around to Director Peters' edits,
Oh,
what do you want me
right.
to do with those?
There, I'm okay with those edits.
I'm okay with the edits.
Okay, then I'm just gonna have council look them over, and then we're gonna add them.
Yes.
And then, do you want me to come back here with those, or do you want me to go to the full board with those?
I would think at that point you just go to the full
Go
board.
to the board, yes.
Don't you think?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine, because they've
All right.
already seen them now.
Okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Close.
Ranch.
I ran Chip off. So I don't know, I gotta leave. She's going for it.
Close item 3.
All right.
We'll bring that back to the board in general session.
Oh, this is all messed
Open
up.
session. Item number 4.
Ron Ravine.
Good morning, Monica Reyes, Recreation.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm great. The item before you, the recommendation is that this committee awards a sole source purchase of the Long Ravine boat slips from Lake Construction Easy Dock in the amount of $171,094.18 and authorize the general manager to execute the appropriate documents. A little background as far as the sole source purchase. Lake Construction, Easy Dock, has been under contract with the district for multiple boat purchases over the last 3 years. Lake Construction is a dealer distributor for Easy Dock, and Easy Dock is actually globally known for manufacturing a long-lasting, eco-friendly, easy to work with modular dock and slip systems. This final purchase of the boat slips will complete our slip replacement program and allow for consistency of product throughout all of our campgrounds. This sole source award does comply with the following section of the district's procurement policy 3080.3.J.2 in order to match other products in use on a particular public improvement, either completed or in the course of completion. A little background on the slips themselves is that the NID Recreation Department has, over the last 3 years, been in the process of getting rid of the old wooden ones, and replacing them with plastic slips. The ones that are at Long Ravine are probably about 30 plus years old.
And they're still floating?
Barely, some of them
That's
barely.
amazing.
And at this point, half of Long Ravine is plastic, half of Long Ravine is still the wooden.
Right.
Last year, due to lack of budget, we worked a lot on just fixing the wooden pieces of them, the wooden part of them, to just get them through the season, which we did really well, actually. They lasted. We didn't have any issues. We didn't come to work one day and find them floating along somewhere, or we were missing a few. So we did a good job at that. But they're at the point where now it's just more cost effective just to replace them. And also the safety issues. You know, there's this. You know, people are walking barefoot.
Splinters.
We've got
I know.
splinter issues. We have, screws popping up, nails popping up, and I do have staff that checks them morning, afternoon, and night. And even from the night when we close to the morning, just the movement of the water forces
I bet.
those nails to come up. So it's more, we're at that point of a safety issue. Also, Long Ravine is extremely popular for boating. It's one of our top boating facilities, and for a 4-month slip pass and the yearly boat pass is $1,040. If we didn't replace the slips this year, there would potentially be a loss in revenue due to non-rentable slips, because I'm thinking, and I've talked to staff, some of those, even if we did keep the wooden ones and we worked on them, we would have to take out several. A lot of it is just the wood can't. Just adding more wood isn't going to solve the problem, and also the flotation underneath. Some of them are so saturated that even by mid-season they're starting to go down. And once you put weight on them, they don't float. So that's one of the issues we have. And my hope is that this is approved today. I will leave here today and they will be ordered. It takes about a month to receive. It will take my staff about 2 to 3 weeks to build, get them out in the water.
Well, so you get them in parts like a Kia?
Exactly. Yeah, they're big.
Like
Yeah,
Legos?
they kind of are. It's kind of neat how they fit together. And then hopes is, I would want them to be out on the water and in place by May 1st. So if we need to make any changes by May 15th is when the slip holders come on, we have a little bit of time to make those changes. This item does align with the district's goal number 1, to maintain proactive, prudent, and forward-thinking management to ensure resilient and sustainable operations to our system for the benefit of our customer, our community, and our environment. The budgetary impact, the new slips were budgeted in the 2020 non-programmatic capital budget 30250-52915. The budgeted amount is $215,000. The quote received from Lake Construction is $171,094.18, leaving a $43,905.82 balance remaining in that capital budget. The remaining balance would be used to dispose of the wooden docks, which is estimated not to exceed $20,000 and could be less if I am able to use NID maintenance stuff. I got to work all that in. I got to figure that piece out. But what we like to do, we like to get the slips out of the water, let them sit for a while, so when we do dispose of them, we're not paying for water weight.
Right.
because that's the heaviest, that's the most heaviest. So we've learned over the years to let them sit and drain. So, any questions?
Yes, I have several. Speaking of, that's the first one. Are they brought out during the wintertime, or are they float all year long?
If this goes through today, the docks?
Oh, they are.
Yeah, they are out all
they are.
all year
Okay.
long, yes.
And the other one was, reading this, that we typically have a wait list of 20 plus.
Yes.
With, and I was surprised to see what the amount of the, I mean, this is great, but are we limited on space to adding more, or is that a consideration, or?
Well, with this,
Good question.
with this new build, we will be adding some more.
We will.
We will be able to slip some more in. We've also cut down
No pun
on.
intended there.
Yes.
Slips.
And so we've also, over the years, we've kind of condensed down the amount of slips that our daily rentals, because they just weren't selling. I mean, most people that come, if they bring their boat, they usually have lakeside, and they
Right.
can park their boat right in the front. So we have gained a few more, I think 8 more actually slips that way.
Right on.
So
But
it
yeah.
gets back to my question about space or study about the possibility of expanding this. It seems like a good revenue flow.
Oh, yeah.
We clearly haven't reached this market saturation.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, we have no problem.
What's the cost,
Well, that's what I was,
cost
like,
benefit of adding more slips?
I mean, we could, but I mean, we only have a limited amount of space on that, in that area. I mean, we've got the boat slips
How
there.
many,
We've-
by the way?
We've got day use over here. There's about 94 in this. Yeah, we're replacing 54, I think.
That's
Yeah.
a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, and then we also have Orchard who has them as well. Peninsula has a few, but because of location, they don't really have a lot of use for that. And then at Scotts Flat, we have the mooring balls.
So Long Ravine is
It's the go-to. They're right off the, they're right off the freeway, and that's, yeah.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Okay.
When it's the easiest marina to get in and out of.
It's
Right.
nice and wide and big, and yeah.
I wonder, have you done, I'm just curious, any kind of market study around, like, there would be a tipping point, right? It's like, in my
We call it
world.
saturation?
Yeah, saturation, market saturation, or, I think of rents in homes,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
That there's a point at which, if your rent goes too high, then you don't get tenants because they go out and buy houses.
Exactly.
Right? And so I'm wondering if we know what that saturation or tipping point is, where people would go, oh my gosh, they want way too much money, I'm not paying that.
Yeah.
And what the room then, which leads me to, is a $10 increase?
Yeah.
Like, what is the?
Every year when
So
we.
we've been slowly creeping up
Exactly.
on that number.
And
I
every,
know,
and
yeah.
every year when we bring our rate increase to the board,
Mhm.
I do include other agencies and other campgrounds that have that, and we are still lower. I don't know what that dollar amount is, but I know, like, looking over them, we are lower than most.
Mhm.
But I do know, with these plastic slips, replacing the wooden ones, that has been a big heartburn for a lot of our customers, is that I'm paying for these old broken wooden ones the same amount as the
Right,
guy over
right.
here. And so we will make these guys really, really happy.
But I think in time, we're slowly but surely getting to a place where we're gonna find where that tipping.
Yeah, we're gonna, I mean,
Yeah,
we're
so,
getting there.
Like a $25 increase would generate an extra couple of grand in income.
Mhm.
And my question, would the market absorb $25? Is
Yeah.
that too much, too little? So that's, I just would encourage
Yeah.
y'all to look at those.
Yeah.
Well, given that you're in M&R,
Oh, that's right.
And, yeah,
I wasn't in M&R.
We
We'll
were
see you
just
in the
together
fall.
a couple
So
of
we
minutes
did talk
ago.
about all these things.
Oh, you did?
I think
Okay.
we looked at
Yeah.
some of the, we can raise these more than these.
Yep.
Yeah, we're getting to that
Camping-
point, especially on camping
the camping-
fees,
the
yeah.
camping
The,
fees
the tent
We gotta have
fees.
some free ones over here for camping.
Yeah.
But boat people are, they're talking a lot of money already.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, truly, we really don't. I mean, we do always have a waiting list at all of our campgrounds, except for Peninsula, just because of
See, when
location.
you have a waiting list, that tells you can raise the prices.
yes. I've said this 100 times in M&R.
Have you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
our problem many years was that one of our members was a slip holder.
They shouldn't have been allowed to vote.
yeah.
You could say then that's true about everybody but you, that's a water rate payer.
We all have
Yeah, we
comments.
have- Yeah, no.
Well, but I mean, when you get down into something that specific, but
Yes.
I'm mostly joking, but not. So I had a question about the shipping. Are you?
Go ahead, I've got
I
that.
just had
I know.
wow, that's a huge dollar amount.
I know.
Yes, and they're
And-
coming from Clear Lake?
And
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, come on, you guys, they gotta do something about that shipping. Can we, is there something we can do?
I've wondered that too, having
Did
to
you?
ship fruit all my life.
Yeah. you would-
How many
yeah.
truckloads that is. I go, that sounds like an exorbitant amount, but if it's numerous trucks, it has to
Yeah.
be because bulky.
Well, yeah, I mean, we are, this is a huge purchase. And I know like in the past, if this, and you know, one of my thoughts was this, well, could we do it? But I mean, there's no way we can.
Oh, no,
We've
no.
had smaller purchases where I've sent my guys to Clear Lake to go pick them up because it was just more cost effective. But yeah, I mean, this is 2 truckloads,
It's 2 truckloads.
big,
Semi-trailer.
yeah.
And they don't negotiate because this is probably.
This is a bid.
Yeah,
This
I
is
mean,
an AFL-CIO trucking thing, probably.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
He finds
I
somebody
just
and-
needed to ask the
yeah,
question.
no,
'Cause that is
totally.
a big number.
well, yeah, because I could spend that somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah.
More boats.
More boat slips.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I just wondered if you could ask the guy if he can
So
help
there's
you out on
no,
the
there's
shipping.
no negotiating the shipping, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
It
no.
comes with the
He,
bid.
yeah,
comes with the bid.
yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Answer
there it
is-
is.
There's the answer.
But
There's
this will
the
be,
answer. Well,
this
we-
will be our last
See,
one,
it's
though.
okay. It's okay to talk about it,
Yes,
right?
it is okay to talk about it.
Yeah, it's okay to talk about it.
Because it does, it shocked me when I first looked at it.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, no,
It got my
totally.
attention, it didn't shock me, because I haven't shipped a truckload a long time, I don't know what they cost anymore. But-
But these are big, they're bulky, they're,
Yes, and the trucking industry in California has taken a huge hit.
Yeah, they sure have.
On
Yeah.
the carb things.
Carb stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm totally in favor. Go get your ducks,
Yes.
make it work, get more,
Go-
raise the prices, do whatever you need to do.
I'm running out the door right now.
We'll see you in the fall, that's right.
And me too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. Public comment on this item? Okay, we'll close item number 4, and we'll open item number 5.
Okay, good morning. Greg Jones.
Morning.
So today we bring forth to you a information-only presentation regarding the 2020 Communications Plan. In December 11th, at the board meeting, we brought forth a survey and some responses from that survey. That has helped inform our communications plan. We've been building it as we've obviously gone through the 2020 budgeting process, but it really sort of helps solidify some of our channels and some of our methodologies that we're going to work forth in 2020. So this is really just a brief, an overview of where we're going, give you an idea of some of the things that we're working on. So you've got a presentation on your desk, but we've
Yeah.
also got it on the screen for those at home who want to see as well.
You know what, I have a question.
Yes.
That marketing plan, or the.
Survey.
Survey, thank you.
Yeah.
Is that something we can get a copy? I mean, I know we had a copy of it at one point.
Yeah.
Because
Did we have it in our packet?
that was really cool. I think we did, but I don't know if I still have it.
If you want one, I'd be happy to provide.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to have another one. just
Sure.
Because it was really interesting. Because what I remember from that, as we get into this, is that the NID website was like, had no traffic. You know, and whereas this, you've got, well, anyway, go ahead with your presentation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've got a number of, so behind all this, we do have a lot of analytics.
Right.
Susan and Tommy have been doing a great job in moving this forward and sort of understanding where our community is looking at our website or not, what kind of play we're getting in the local newspaper when we put out an ad or when we put out a press release, who picks it up, when they pick it up, what the focus is. And so we've got a lot of data behind the scenes that we're working on, and it's helping sort of identify some of these practices and these plans that we're looking at doing in 2020. We're really excited. So 2020, a more informed, engaged community. That's really sort of from the communication standpoint, all right? We've got the strategic planning of the district, and then we've got our own little communications work, how we're going to implement that vision of the strategic plan, both internally with our internal constituents, which is staff and board, and then there's the external constituents, which is our community. right, in general. So those are the two frameworks that we're looking at communications. But really this informed and engaged, we're hearing this a lot. We're hearing these words, and we're hearing transparency, and we're hearing a lot. And so what we really want to do is really be an educator of information from NID to the public. So we put up here today's the current 2020 mission and vision of our existing and to be worked on strategic plan. So this is what the board has agreed to at this point. I believe the district will provide a dependable, safe, sustainable, and resilient water supply while being good stewards of the watershed. And then the vision is to promote healthy watersheds and reliable infrastructure that support our environment, treated and raw water customers, power reliability, and recreation to sustain our quality of life now and in the future. This is the guiding. You did a great job.
Yeah,
It really just rolls off the tongue. We are using this as the guiding principle of everything that we're working on.
Part of why we do it.
That's right. So as we look at the communications team and what we're putting on, there's some goals that we're emulating from the existing strategic plan thought process, historically NID, looking forward at some of the other programs and projects that we're working forth. And so we've kind of come up with these different elements where we're going to communicate the district efforts. That's really sort of our drive this year, is really letting people know who we are, what we're doing, why we're doing it, and keeping that consistent messaging, that consistent branding across the platform. So some of the themes, really 5 themes that we're sort of focusing around: fiscally responsible and accessible. We're here 6 meetings a month. We're here, in your backyard. You can walk in the office, you can talk to. Open door policy, fiscally responsible, hence the conversation we just had. Maintaining healthy watersheds and sheds in collaboration with district partners, NGOs, other governmental agencies, federal government, state government. Make decisions with the best available science and collaboration. Inform, educate, listen, and collaborate with honesty and integrity to our community and with our community. And then making decisions that serve the best interests of the district customers. These are elements that we want to inform our community who NID is and what we're trying to do. So kind of the flow, we've got our district mission, vision, values. Some of that, the district survey, we've done that in the last couple years. So that helps inform the communications process. Not necessarily the strategic vision, mission of the district, but it helps inform how people want to be talked to in the region. So that informs some of our goals. We work with our project managers, and department managers on different projects, events, and developing campaigns from those. We identify different channels, and then we're seeking to inform the community. So this is a quick snippet. One of the questions that came out of that 2018-2019 survey. So this was a similar question that we submitted to the community in 19, similar to what we had in 2018. So in 18, in general, do you approve or disapprove of the job that NID is doing? And then 19, it was a very similar question. Do you approve or disapprove of the job that NID is doing? What we've shown here is that the approval rate between the 2 years has increased by 10%. The unsures have gone down by roughly 15%. The disapproval rate has also increased by 15%. So it shows that there's a lot of room.
No, by 5%.
I'm sorry, 5%.
By 5%.
Sorry, apologize.
Right, which, you should put that on here, because otherwise it's sort of like, you have everything there on the percentages, except for the fact that the disapproval was 5%.
You're right.
I know that the deal is you don't want to highlight that.
Highlight.
But it shows a little more credibility to actually.
10-4. I appreciate that.
I did my math on it.
I appreciate that.
My
for sure.
question on that
Yeah.
is, what do we attribute those things? Is there a comparison? We did this, and so we got this, or we didn't do this.
Oh,
and we
like a
got
nexus between the approval and
Yes,
disapproval.
So-
can we quantify?
That's a good
So we're trying to do that. We're trying to do that with a lot of the analytics as we assess on a monthly
Because I find it
basis.
fascinating that,
Yeah.
but there's the disapproval. What happens?
Well, we had rate setting last year.
Yes.
right? We had a lot of people that I think are not always engaged with the district's activities or paying
Right.
attention to what the district is
Right,
doing.
right, right.
There was a huge push, not only from NID, but also from other community organizations in bringing people out. So I think it might have brought NID's, that particular event, right? It brought
Probably.
NID to the forefront in a lot of people's mind. I think the fires of Paradise, as well as, trails to emergency evacuations through the spring and summer of 2019 brought NID to the fore in a lot of locations and a lot of people's conversations. So in general, I think,
Hot button issues got people attention.
right.
Yeah, but I would say that it's mostly in part to the fact that we're actually broadcasting at
Well,
this
that's my
point,
point.
right?
How
We've
do
got
we-
staff
Right.
online that is doing this effort, right? And up to year before last, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that didn't, I mean, it existed, but it didn't really exist, right?
Yeah.
So I think our initial push into that space is more broad.
To be intentional about it
Yeah.
and really focus on it.
And some of the relationships that we're building with the local newspapers and with the local media also helps. Like just as an anecdote, in 2018, NID sent out 78 news releases, 48 of which were published. In 2019, we sent out 83 news releases, and 54 of those mostly were published. So we're getting more play, I guess, in the media. There's a lot more information that's being sent around, and other organizations are picking it up. But we do want to get to the point, Director Beerwagen, to your point, of understanding what is driving these numbers,
Yeah.
right? Like where are the approval ratings going to increase? Now we're only doing this survey at a one standpoint, a
Right,
single
snapshot.
in a
Yeah.
year. So it's not really 100% reflective of actual on the ground, but it does give you a snapshot in the year. How we can manage and how we can allocate points along the way, which are website hits. We're trying to bring people to the website. We want people to sign up for e-news. We want people to sign up and subscribe. So here are a lot of these key performance indicators that we're beginning to track and have been tracking that we can then bring forth, I think, back to this body and really start sort of cost benefit of the money that we're putting towards this effort to how much we're moving this needle. Yeah.
I think this is awesome.
I do too.
And, Rem and I were in a meeting the other day, and one of the people at the meeting said, how come we don't know about all this stuff, this good stuff you do? And he and I looked at each other and went, uh-huh. And it had occurred to me, but, we've got experts here. Thank you all for being here. But, what if we were to do like a series of articles for, like, I was thinking in Combi, right? Because that was such a magnificent project, and I know we've done a lot out in the public sphere about Combi, meaning the mercury separation, all
Yeah.
as a pilot project, but do it in such a way, because, these guys know, people only read like this much, right? To have articles that are this long, nobody reads them.
Yeah.
And so what I was thinking about after we had that meeting was, well, what if we did a series in the newspaper and Ubinet and wherever else on our website of, here's, let's talk about the Combi project. This is what we're doing. This is how we did it. This is, why we did it. Now it's going to be replicated. And, and just sort of do boom, 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 do like 5 articles that are a paragraph long. So
it's kind of like Trina Kleist's thing.
A little bit.
What is that? I don't know what
So
that
we did a
is.
series of watershed high alpine articles
Uh-huh.
with Trina Kleist. They were fantastic, and
They were, but-
it was a vignette series.
Oh, it was? Oh,
over a
cool.
period. But we didn't aim it at a project or at anything specifically necessarily us. And
Well,
so
there's also other technological advances that we can
Right.
build into.
It was just,
for instance,
and I'm
one
not
of the
saying it's the greatest idea in
No.
the world, but
no,
I'm
it
just
is.
saying
It is a really good
that,
idea.
that, because we know that the reading public only reads a small amount, and
They want it short.
they want it short, and, social media has just killed us all for having, It's like, if you can't say it in 2 sentences, then you lose everybody.
Well, on that subject, I heard a news item yesterday about in business, or it was an ad for emphasizing social media rather than website, or phone-in surveys or anything like that, that's, I've showed people pictures of the Combe as an
Yeah.
example. Here's a huge project down in the canyon where nobody can see, nobody knows that's going on, or most nobody.
Right.
And when I show these pictures that I took, they go,
Yeah.
wow, that's impressive, They don't know we're spending $20 million for
To
a
keep the water going.
Huge infrastructure thing to
Right.
keep the water going. And has there been a picture anywhere in any body?
So
any
let
time?
me touch on that in just a minute.
Sure, I'm
When
sorry.
we get to projects and channels,
Yeah.
because you're speaking to channels, right? You're speaking to how do you talk to
Yes.
a particular
Yeah.
individual or group of people, and how do they best receive their media? It could be an app, it could be a phone, it could be a website, it could be straight up newspaper, right? There are just many different ways. So we'll come to that
Yeah.
in just a second,
Okay.
but it's a great conversation. That's okay. No
Yeah.
worries. Jumping ahead, that's fine. So overarching, we want to, the goal with everything we're putting out is that, NID is a trusted, valued
Mhm.
entity for our customers, and that they're satisfied. I think that this is an ongoing theme that we're building upon. It is there. It's just not explicit in a lot of our information. Some of our information that historically NID has put out is very, very tactical and very, very project specific, without, this value around the work that we're doing. And I think what you said, the project on Combe 0 for 1, $20 million project, a huge value for all of Placer County, right? And it's maybe discussed as just, well, it's one big capital project that's going forth, right? Let's add a little something to it. Let's add a little
But,
trust in
getting
there.
ready for our, pardon the pun, centennial, our 100-year
Yeah.
anniversary, right?
Mhm.
You could, do, like, I could just imagine a huge, long series of, very short things. And what I've learned in doing marketing for real estate is that, a hit here and a hit there does nothing. You have to dominate, right? You have to be there
Tell
every
somebody
day.
7 times. Is that what it is? How many
17 times.
17.
Yeah, it's like you have to, if you're gonna bother to do an ad in the newspaper, for instance,
Yeah.
you have to have that ad appear
Yeah.
every single
Yeah.
day for weeks
Yeah.
or months. It doesn't have to be big,
Yeah.
It's
Do
just
me-
the consistency.
Do me a favor when you go to Ubinet next time.
Mhm.
We do have an ongoing
Oh, no, I
banner
know.
ad now.
No, I've seen it, But, I mean, that's the point, is like, build on the 100-year
Consistency.
theme, and I'm sure you all are smarter and have thought about that.
You
So-
just keep jumping ahead.
I'm sorry, okay.
As good as you did.
It's all right. It's all right. It's okay. So just reliability. These are just elements of value, trust, satisfaction. We're reliable. We've been here for 100 years through the PSPS events. We've been delivering water. Value. We're bringing high value water to our customers for the lowest possible price. Our ops and customer service are right here waiting for you. They'll answer the phone. You call, we will answer.
I know, I
We'll
love
go
that.
out and talk to somebody in the lobby.
And you could do a whole thing just on,
Yeah.
how many businesses do you call and you get a human being?
That's right.
Oh.
Right away.
Not very many,
no.
but you do at NID.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Stewards of the watershed, stewards of our assets,
Yeah.
stewards of our financial and real assets in the ground. And then we're just accessible. Here we are. So some of the objectives, we've got a lot of words here, but I just wanted to give you the overview. Branding is really sort of, we've already built sort of a brand strategies plan. We have that. We're implementing it in 2020. So it talks about font, it talks about color palette, it talks about when to use what, it talks about some of these other things. So we'll be implementing that in 2020. Really, a lot of that's, we added the budget numbers to this, so it gives you sort of a reflection of what staff time really kind of, at this point, just implementation versus what we anticipate spending in 2020. A new website, we've already got quotes and we've got an idea of what website we do want. There's a couple technical issues that we've got to work through, but we've budgeted $15,000 there. I think it'll be less than that. Social media, we've budgeted roughly $4,500. Those are boosts. Those are Facebook, social media boosts that you pay for in order to get a word out, right? You're familiar with that. Waterways newsletter, that goes out to our customer base. E-alerts, email alerts as a communication tool for folks. We don't want to inundate people who have given us their email. We do not want to spam. We don't want to do anything. We want to give people real communication that is meaningful and valued to them. So we're judiciously discussing that internally on how we're going to do that. But we have started to collect emails over the last couple years. We do have a lot that we never really had before. We haven't really utilized it yet. We've done a couple test emails, and we've found really good response rates, like upwards in the 40% click-throughs,
That's really good.
which is unheard of, right? So it shows that people are interested to hear from us on things that might impact them. The pipeline is our employee newsletter. That's our internal communication amongst everybody. So we do that on a monthly basis. Water bill inserts, we should have one going out, I believe, this coming month. So we've got that budgeted in 2020. That's a chunk of money, that's a cost, but it is a direct communication to every single customer of NID. They open their bill, if they get bill by mail, they open their bill, there's something we've prepared, and it speaks to our brand strategy, it speaks to our communications efforts, it speaks to our goals, vision. Visibility within our community, that's really the big budget number, and that really covers a lot of different things.
Well, I was going to say, that's the biggest budget number. What is contained within that?
So it covers advertising, it covers banner ads in the Ubinet, it covers union editorials, so paid advertising in newspapers, right? You buy a full page ad. It covers things like the farm guide, and we put an ad in that, so it goes out to the farming community. It covers business focus, which is we've put money towards a full page ad in the Nevada County business focus, so it's the business magazine for the community. It covers things like a brochure redo. We've got like a 4-page brochure that's sort of a 8.5 by 11 NID. Who we are. That's way outdated. We want to update that, and so we're going to put that, and that's something that we can hand out at different events or have out in the main lobby, have at our board meetings, as well as some rack cards that talk about NID. Specifically, we're putting together a canal safety brochure right now. So just, that's what that entails. There's a lot of different elements to that. It also covers some of our consultants. We've got a couple consultant firms that are helping us with brand strategy and outreach components. Also helps with it covers some video. You've seen the previous video that we put together. There's some opportunities now in taking some of that B-roll that we did before and including it in 20-second, 30-second commercials that we can put up on Ubinet, we can put on our Facebook page, we can put on push out to email blasts as well. So that's what that entails. And then, of course, we talked about our 100-year celebration. August 20-ish of next year is really sort of the first signing of, where's that picture? Oh, that picture's gone. The signing of NID. So we are in development of what we will be doing, and this is the year to really start planning. We are working on a number of different things. Not really ripe for full discussion yet, but we will start seeing certain things in the next, coming quarter or two. This is just sort of a brief overview of how we're thinking about things. So both Susan and Tommy have reached out to every department, 8 different departments. That's including finance, that's including HR, and operations, maintenance, hydro, rec. We've identified 70 different activities that each one of those departments are working on for 2020 that we want to talk about in one way, shape, or form. So 70 different planned projects or activities that are going on this year alone, and that's just in what the department managers can kind of, assess for now. There are things like mulch magic, quagga zebra boat inspections, no motor day at Scotts Flat, right? Snowpack surveys, and everything from raw water master planning to strategic planning, all of those. So we've combined all those to roughly 70 different plans or projects that NID is working on. And so what we're looking at is then we identify sort of a campaign. We're trying to fit those by month. So we've got them on a calendar. We've got them identified. We're trying to identify what campaign are we going to talk about? How are we going to do it? Are we going to reach out? Who are we going to talk to? Then who the audience is. Is it the broad community in general, or is it a pipeline replacement project for this community and we got to focus on this geographical or zip code? So we identify that, and we're working in conjunction with the department managers and supervisors. We choose the channels. So this is that whole list of is it a 5-page spread? Is it an ongoing? Is it a paid advertising? Do we want to promote a small 30-second video on it and hire in for that? Do we want it to just be a quick email alert to somebody, or is it a NID? Everybody come, bring in all the forces. This is the big thing. So that's really the channel choosing, as well as the audience that we're identifying. We've got a timing schedule, so a month or two, depending on what it is, prep for it. We either put out some preliminary information, get people prepped for it, or it's just, hey, it's next weekend, show up. Then we execute the outreach component of it that we've built, and then we close it up, begin another project. So there's a lot of work involved in a lot of this, and they're all multiple happening at the same time. We've got it broken up, like I said, in months and quarters. Both Tommy and Susan are taking a look at that. That's sort of their work plan for the year, and we're jamming on it, and it's no small feat. Yeah. And I think that's really about it. Any questions?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
On this subject.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed in the article in the paper about the trails, Scotts Flat Trails, did not mention how involved NID and how important NID is in that process.
Well, there's a backstory to that
There's a long
you should talk
backstory.
to Rem about.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been sort of submerged in that for
Okay.
a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
if not longer, and they all have been submerged in it for like
All
8
right,
years.
well, I'll ask.
Yeah.
Needless to say, that did not come from
That was
NID.
not, yeah.
That was not
Well,
an
I know it didn't
NID.
come from an ID. I don't
Yeah.
even have to, I can assume that.
Yeah.
That just,
There's a long backstory.
Yeah,
And we can
there's-
fill you in
okay.
no matter,
Well,
absolutely.
there always is a backstory.
Well, there's a big backstory.
I think the thing is that we continue to struggle inside that space in terms of the union reaching out to us as it relates to or understanding as they bring an article like that from another contributor forward. We would appreciate a call to say, hey.
Yeah, hey, and
Well,
what do
I
you
think
think
what's
about
going
this?
on?
Really specific. I've been a subscriber forever. I love the paper, but it's unlimited because that's my primary news source, and I know that they're not NID friendly.
Well,
But we're trying to work on that.
We
I know you have.
have my these two ladies here are
And I'm
doing
sure
a great job
they're
in
more
helping
frustrated about that I am.
amend this.
Reading that
That's right.
paper, right?
Yeah. Any other
That
questions?
was all.
I also just had a comment. In all of these 70 projects or things you're thinking about, are you thinking about an education component, like in the schools or Sierra College or high school or elementary school, or, this is where your water comes from. Go tell mom and dad.
So we do have an element of that built into the watershed budget in terms of outreach to the local schools. There's a small budget amount for that, and so how that intersects with the communications and outreach, that will happen. There is a small budget that we've built over the years for school outreach and watershed education. in terms of the overall NID sort of ambassador program and sponsorships of different organizations and donations to different things and spending time at schools to present and build something deeper, that is not budgeted. We don't have that. Correct.
Yeah, but there's other ways to do that. You invite the schools here, or you invite the schools to, like, not, you know, they go sit in one of those big pieces of pipe.
They do that. We typically,
It's like,
Hydro-
no one will ever forget that.
Hydro has done a number of tours
Yeah.
over the years of schools. Like I said, NASA and the watershed program have an element where we're reaching out to different schools and talking about watershed issues. Yeah,
Those little
It's
things
important.
Can be a good advertising.
I do.
Well, and you create an impression that lasts, right? I mean,
That's
the
right.
drought of '77 still sticks in my head.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
putting a brick in the toilet, that was
Brick in the
like
toilet in 77.
crazy. Dad and I are gonna buy bricks
Yeah.
and we're gonna put them in
Standing
the
in,
toilet.
you know, being in line to buy gas in 1972,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Actually, somehow that was, my mother was in the car and I was outside the car. She was like, "You, go, fill car with gas." Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, this is awesome. I'm excited to see what's coming.
Yes. Very good.
Great. Any public comment on this? Okay. All right. So thank you. We'll close
Thank you.
item number 5, and then I'll just open it up to the safety activities report. Item number 6. This has typically been going to the M&R committee, but we brought it back to the APC. So you get to hear a bit about what our safety staff is doing. And just as a background, we've got two safety staff, Dawn Bird and Cindy Ware, for all of NID training activities regarding new hires, training for CPR to confined space to fall protection, heavy equipment. There's a number of activities and trainings that we have to outsource, but we do have an internal. Don Bird is train the trainer, so he's certified in many different activities, and so he's our go-to training individual, which is great. It does limit us in a number of different elements, though, and so we're continuously looking to how to integrate our safety program within the district. There are different elements. Maintenance has their own small safety program. Hydro has some very specific hydroelectric and powerhouse specific activities that they need to do, which we don't have expertise and technology in at the district, so they have to go out and hire for that. But in general, our safety staff is looking at a lot of OSHA. We're looking at a lot of employee programs that we can implement and do right here at district headquarters. They live in the annex, so if you haven't been out there and said hello to them, they're always happy to talk. Just some high level stuff. We do gas monitoring within the hydroelectric department. So we have a contract with the organization that refills, but we have to go out and we definitely test and make sure that these docking stations are working and accessible to those who need it. We do safety inspections to different powerhouses, sometimes when requested, sometimes at the drop of a hat. And so we'll go out. This particular one was a request from Hydro to go out and take a look at some of the issues around Rollins. And so we made some adjustments, and they work hand in hand. And we say, yep, we should update this and do that. And then the either NID maintenance or Hydro folks go ahead and make the changes. We've done a couple confined space entry.
What is that? Can you describe that quickly?
So confined space is...
I know what that means, but I don't in this context.
In this context, we had to go into a tank at the Scotts Flat Reservoir, and I don't recall exactly what type of a tank it was, and at Lake Wildwood, and they had to enter the tank.
Oh.
So physically enter the tank and inspect it,
Huh.
right? And
Yeah.
so you're going through, would it have been, Rem, do you think it would have been a propane?
No, these are our water.
I'm
sorry, water
Yeah, no,
tank.
it's
Sorry,
propane.
sorry, not propane.
Yeah, so we drain the tanks for their annual
That's
inspection.
my next question.
And
We
so-
drain it before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have to necessarily. If we want to hire divers to do the work, we can. It's cheaper for us to have maintenance staff to go into our, and we have 41 tanks total in the system, 41, 44, somewhere around there. And so this is an ongoing process. And then as a confined space, right, it has to be rigged for confined space. You have to have a man, the person inside, you have a person outside. It has to be air tested
Monitored
before you
and all
go
that.
in. It has to have ongoing monitoring, the whole nine. It's a big deal.
Thanks, I just was
Yeah.
curious what that meant.
And so our safety staff is there to oversee it. They're not necessarily doing it themselves. They're overseeing the safety of the staff that are doing it, have been trained. You can see in the last quarter, we did a lot of training. We had a lot of new temporary orientation. We had some new hires. So that takes a bulk of a day mostly for our training, our safety staff to be doing these new hire trainings, whether they're temporary or full-time. So take a lot of time there.
I would point out, Director, the Bear River High School OSHA 10-hour.
That was a good one?
Yeah.
Well, it's NID and Hanson Aggregates. We both
Oh,
send
nice.
our safety person down to make sure that the kids down there receive their hazmat tent.
Oh.
It adds to the
So this is
value.
for the students?
So this is for the students.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe it was like, we took our people there and
Mm-mm.
provided the training for our
Now, this was for the high school
No, this
students
is
to
Oh,
walk
this is
out.
sure that our young CTEs
Yes.
can enter the job market with at least an OSHA 10.
See?
Now, this would have
that
been-
is something
this-
we
this-
need to talk about.
This would have been one of the 70 projects that would have been identified that we would have built a plan around and a campaign around, and
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Didn't
It's like
happen.
The,
it's a big deal.
you know, the intern thing, you know, it's
Right.
another thing.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. The safety department helps me in some of our accident claims when they revolve NID staff. So if there's a vehicle accident, there's a fender bender or something like that, they help me in researching and understanding and working with insurance companies like Geico or Allstate or whatever in figuring out what we need to do.
How many claims have we had? That was my question. We were the accident claim for operations and the 3 accident claims for maintenance. What is our accident rate?
Oh,
Does that exist?
it's,
Our incident rate's like 2.43
I was gonna say, it's less than a handful
Uh-huh.
a year.
per year.
Right? Many, and half of those are somebody hit us, right?
Like down, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The other half is, somebody backed into
Over
something,
Uh-huh.
a gate or a fence of some sort, right?
And this
Another
includes
car.
all equipment, not just vehicles on the road. This
Yeah.
includes
All
the
equipment.
Yeah.
construction equipment.
Yeah.
Backhoes.
Backhoes and
Nice.
dump trucks and et cetera.
That
So
sounds like a good safety. thing.
Sounds like they're doing good safety, yeah.
Yes.
That's good.
it is, and those operators of those vehicles, not just the trucks, but the operators of the heavy equipment, they really, they're very well trained and certified, and they understand the gravity of the equipment that they're driving and where they're operating it on.
And who
If-
they're operating it for.
That's right. That's right.
Public
Exactly.
Perception.
Just sort of a general list of other different things that they're working on, but I am interested in getting more of a visually oriented report for you all in the next year.
Next go.
So there's some photos and there's some other things instead of just bullet points. So it gets a little.
Well, the other one I was interested in particular, the accident claim for customer service department, was that like a slip and fall or something?
No, there's a particular form that we use called the accident injury form, and it's something that all district-wide uses if something happens. You run into somebody,
Oh, so
somebody runs
This
into
isn't that
you.
we had a claim?
No,
This is a
no, this is a
form.
practice.
Okay.
This is an organizational procedure.
Drop their bill.
I know, right?
No, it's a
Okay.
procedure that we've,
Got it.
and so safety is intimately involved in seeing those, and we worked with all department managers to create something that everybody can work from. That's what that is. Any questions?
They handle the meter reads, so there are vehicles inside customer service.
Oh, true,
That's right.
true, thank you. No,
Any other
no
thoughts?
questions. I'm delighted to hear that you have such a good.
This is a long list
Yeah.
of stuff.
Have such a good safety record.
It is a long, yeah, yeah, and with that, you'll see, that it does affect our financial ability when we come to
Oh, our
insurance.
yeah.
So they look at that and they look at credibility, and you'll see the reductions of our premiums because of
Mhm.
the safety records
Right.
that we had, vehicle and personal.
Very good.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions from Bob? Okay. Well, with that, we will close APC at 10:21.
Thank you.
Thank you.